Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have our Shepherd Staff 9.0 Finance Year-End webinar today. We are just about to get started here, and I want to let you all know that I'm very glad to have you with me. And just so you know, since it's specified here, we are showing a webinar on how to do the year end in version 9.0. If you don't have version 9.0 yet, this will be a preview for you. There are recordings out there for the previous version that you can check out, and hopefully that will help you as well, and I'll show you how to do that here momentarily. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to move this out of the way, and we will get started with our presentation. So, my name is Kimberly, and I'm your host this morning. I am a support technician with Concordia Technology Solutions. I've been here a little over 2 years. I love working with you all. If you guys, any of you were involved in the field testing for this latest version or the one before, I might have spoken with you. If so, let me just say thank you all over again, because you were wonderful, all of you who helped us with all of our field testing. I think our latest 9.0 version is as good as it is and as best as it can be because of your help, and I'm just very grateful for that. So I'll be your host today, and along with me is my lovely manager, Rod, who you will have seen in other webinars in the past, likely. He's going to be online with us the whole time and hopefully be able to answer some of your questions as they come up. So if you have any questions, you can ask them in the little question box in the webinar view, and which is what this says. So we've got everybody muted so that we can get through all of our materials today. But when you do come up with questions, just feel free and go ahead and type those into the question window, and Rod will be manning that, and we will hopefully get all of your questions answered today. So the class today is, like I said, it's on the finance module, the year-end process, and we are going to be using the latest version of Shepherd Staff, the 9.0 version. It is always advisable to update to the latest version. It is particularly advisable at this point in time if you have already upgraded to version 9.0, to do check for updates again, and we'll talk about that and go through it a little bit in a moment, just to make sure that you know how to get to the very latest service pack updates as well as the version updates. So today, our class agenda, we're going to be going through an outline, which is coming up any moment now. We'll have our discussion on all of the things to do for your year-end in finance. We will do a quick review to make sure that you've got all the information you need, and then we'll have some time for a question and answer session. Our runtime is scheduled for an hour today. If we run over, I will keep going and answering questions, and you are welcome to stick around, and if you have to go, I totally understand, and that's also fine. So here's our outline that we were talking about. We're going to start with a quick overview of what the year end is all about. Then we'll talk about some administrative tasks that you take care of when you're doing your year end. After that, we'll talk, these are the administrative tasks. The first thing you'll want to do is optimize your database, and you'll want to take a backup, and you'll want to do that frequently during the process of your year end. And then we'll talk about the actual specific finance tasks that need to be done to make sure that you're ready for your year end. And then to make sure you're ready, you're going to make sure that all of your transactions are completed. You're going to possibly set up all of your budgets for your new year. That's something that you can do after the year end if you prefer to, but it's one of the good things to get done as you're preparing for your new year. You'll also want to reconcile your bank accounts to whatever extent you possibly can, and run all of your year-end reports. Then once that's done, you'll actually run the year-end utility to advance your fiscal year to the new year. Then there are some options for cleaning up data. We'll talk about a little bit more about that when we come to it. It's not required at all and is not even really all that recommended, but it's there for you if you choose to do it. So we'll show you how to do that if you need to. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. One thing I wanted to note for you guys, this past year, a lot of people have been asking for a copy of the PowerPoint presentations, so I've attached it to the webinar today. The information we'll go over is much more in depth than what this PowerPoint says, but if you want it, you can get it as an attachment here. It's a handout on the webinar. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to switch us over here and we're going to go to Shepherd Staff. And then we will talk a little bit about that overview that I mentioned. The first thing, actually, I'm going to exit out of Shepherd Staff and bring it back up. Let's do that. Because I want to make sure that you know how to check for updates in Shepherd Staff. And what you're going to do is right here on your login screen, you're going to click that check for updates link right in the middle. Or if you prefer, you can also go up to utilities and click check for software updates, but both take you to the same place. And I have saved this for you so that you can see, and we'll do a quick walkthrough of that. It is very important if you're on 9.0, you're gonna wanna do this before you run your year end. I would do it today as soon as you're finished with the webinar, in fact. And then I might do check for updates one more, in fact, I would do check for updates one more time right before you actually perform your year end, because since the 9.0 version is reasonably new, there are frequent updates with little service pack with improvements and little fixes, and there's a very important one in this latest update. So we're going to go ahead and go through the process so that you can see how it looks in case you haven't done it on your own before. It's very simple as long as you are have an active support contract. You just click that check for updates, you say continue, and it'll download the update, and you'll just click on through the prompts as you see them come up. And I'm going to accept my license agreement and click next. It's telling me to temporarily disable any antivirus products other than Window Defender. That's kind of important because we are a fairly small company and we don't have a whole lot of resources to get ourselves whitelisted with all of the different antivirus companies. So my system is set up to be able to work fine. So I'm going to just say okay. But if you have some antivirus software installed other than just the Windows Defender, you might want to pause it while you're doing, well, you probably will want to pause it while you're doing upgrades. And I click on through, and then I'm just going to say finish. This was a service pack update, so it's fairly small and it doesn't require a reboot, but I wanted you to see how that all works. So now I can log in and I know that I'm on the very latest version, and you'll see right now that's 12.11, 2023 12.11 is the latest version that's available. There will be another one coming soon, I guarantee it. So now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and log in and bring up Shepherd Staff. So when you're doing your year end, there are several different tasks that you might do. I know that we've had some other webinars that some of you have likely attended already this week on some of the other modules. Generally, the order that is recommended for your year-end tasks is to do the year-ending contributions, the year-end suggested tasks. There's no actual year-end utility in any of the other modules except for finance, and that's because the utility that we use is just to advance your fiscal year, which only exists in the finance module. But tasks that are common at the year-end, we recommend to start with contributions and then attendance and then your membership stuff, and if you use scheduler, do that, and then wrap it all up with your finance module. So let's see, what else am I going to tell you before we get into okay, well, that's the important part. While I was on the login screen, let me close this back down and bring that up for you because I'm going to show you very important thing that we'd like you to do before you run your year end. And we're going to go to utilities here and we're going to optimize this database. And that is a task that you should probably perform fairly regularly. excuse me. It is a way to make sure that your database is in its best possible shape. So it kind of cleans up if there's any weird data or anything like that. It just basically makes your database run as efficiently as it can. And so that's a really useful thing to do. And then the other thing that's important, and I would do it before you start any of your year-end tasks in any of your modules, is to take a backup. And that way, if you run into any difficulties or problems, you'll always be able to have that fallback point. So we're going to go ahead and do that here. We're going to back up this database, and that'll bring up your backup screen. And you can choose either a specific location you want to send that backup, or you can send it to the last location you used or some other previous location that might be saved in your software. It's recommended that you save it someplace off of the computer that you're using, either on a flash drive or an external hard drive or something like that. I personally am just sort of showing you and going through the motions, so I'm just going to stick it in my downloads folder here, which is where I did it the last time. That's obviously not your most common place to do it. You can also, when you're doing a backup, you can check this box to upload it to CTS. I would recommend for this particular ones that are being done at your year end, either to not check that box or to check that box and then do another backup without it checked, because it does encrypt your backup and you want to have one that's easily available to be restored right away should your computer explode while you're doing your year end, and then you just want to do it immediately without having to get it unencrypted. So I'm going to go ahead and do it without it checked. Okay. So now I've done both of those things. I am ready to start. So we talked about the order to do your other year-end tasks. Finance is the last one you're going to work on. Whoops, I'm saying finance, so I'm typing finance. Okay, so there are a few tasks that you want to do to make sure that you're ready. It's not just a question of advancing your fiscal year. One of the most important things is to make sure that all of your transactions that for the current year, for 2023, are entered and are in a good state, are in a completed state, so that you don't have to worry about something getting entered after you've advanced your year. So we're going to take a look at some of that here in my finance module. And if you'll see here, here's all of my payments, and everything is either cleared or paid and good to go. Obviously, that's only up until this week, but yours would probably go straight through the end of the year when you get there. So I'm good with my payments. Let's look at my receipts. Looks good. I've got everything either cleared or completed, and my journal entries. Everything appears to be even cleared there. Now, you'd also want to make sure that you check with, if you're not the one who enters contribution batches, if someone else in your church does that, you want to check with them, make sure that they've posted any batches that they've already that have been entered, and that all of your offerings for 2023 are already in before you would do any of your year-end to advance your fiscal year. So that's another thing that, and you can see them obviously under receipts. I went ahead and pretended and entered some offering batches for the last few weeks of the year so that I could see them here. So if you can usually see whether they've been posted, but there might be one left outstanding, so it's always good to check with whoever's doing those. So let's see, if you have any recurrent transactions that you run regularly, I have some set up here. If you had a whole bunch of those that needed to be entered, you could make sure that, well, you want to make sure that you get them generated through the end of the year. You'll see that I have some that are not quite ready yet, so I'm going to go ahead and click generate, and I'm going to go to, instead of due by today, I'm going to go ahead and say end of this month. That way I know that I've got all of my December transactions in, and I'm going to go ahead and say okay there. It says I'm going to create 14 transactions, and I say yes. And okay, so they've been created, and you'll see over here under payments that now I have some that are pending. The payroll checks, I would normally print out, so they're listed as pending here. Rather than make you guys wait through all of that, I'm just going to delete those because we don't really need you to have to sit through the whole thing. Actually, you know what? Let's do one of them because I want to show you one other very handy thing that not everybody seems to have noticed yet, and that is a quicker way to print checks from your payments view. And there is a drop down here under Actions, and you can select Print Checks right here, and that'll take you to the check printing screen. You can also then click this little star right next to there to add that to My Actions so that it's easily visible and you don't even have to click the drop down when you want to go to the Print Checks view here. So we will go ahead and pretend that we're printing these out. I'm just going to say that all of these settings are exactly what I want. I'm going to click Preview. I'm going to click Print. And I'm going to just pretend that they've all printed correctly. I'm going to cancel though. I'm not actually going to print them because I don't want you to have to wait for all of that. But you would obviously actually print out any checks that needed to be printed. So that's the first thing that you want to make sure is completed before you complete your year end, is that everything here is in either a paid or completed state or is already cleared. The next thing that you might want to do is your budgeting. I trust that you've all kind of had a little bit of the previous webinars or a little bit of experience looking at the budgets, but if you'll see here, here's your budget view, and you'll want to enter your budgets for next year. It can be done after your year end if you choose to, but it's a good thing to get done ahead of time since sometimes things can be very busy in the new year. So you see here where I chose to select next year in this drop down for the year, and now I have all of my budgets are showing as zeros. So I can go through and do all of my budgeting just straight from this view if I want to. You'll notice that I have listed here all of my income accounts, all of my expense accounts, and also my dedicated accounts. Unlike previous years, you can now select to create a budget for dedicated accounts for incoming and outgoing money, and that's a new feature with the 9.0 version. When you want to create your budgets, you can open the first one. We'll start with income here. And you'll see that I have a simple view here where I can either type in a total amount and come down here and choose to distribute it equally across all months, or I can choose an option to base my budget for this year on for 2024 on my 2023 actuals, and that'll fill in all of my actuals for that year, for the year of 2023, and that can be my budget for the next year. And I have a few other calculation options here. And while I'm on this view, I can click this Advance on Save if I want. And then if I save this budget, it'll take me to the next income account. You can go through that process with all of your income accounts. It will not take you to the other account types from here. You'll have to go Close and then select your expense accounts here. And then you can do the same process for your expenses. So I might say instead that I want to base my expenses on my prior year budget because I don't want to spend quite as much as I take in, right? So if my actuals went up a little, but I want to keep my budget low, I can base that on my prior year's budget and just copy it. And again, I can select to advance on save, and I click save, and I go to my next expense account. You can do the same thing with your dedicated accounts, and I'm going to bring one up just so that you can see that because it is a dedicated account, you have a row for your in and your out, and you can do a similar thing. Either you type in your amounts and you distribute them, or you can base them on your prior year's actuals, and then you can actually change, let's say I want to do plus 2%. Well, okay, pardon me. You can base, let's see, let's do it on my prior year budget. I probably selected, oh, I selected a scholarship fund that didn't have any in it before. So now if I select another one, I see my options to base on the prior year's budget and it's filled it in. And I can again advance on save and go through all of my dedicated accounts if I want to. So you can do all of that here. Yes, we want to leave without saving changes in this case. You could also export your previous year's budgets and then re-import them so that you do all of them at once. Like you could export them to Excel, make some changes, resave it as an Excel file again, and then re-import them so that all of your budgets could be re-imported at the same time. You can do that from here. So that's the next thing you're going to want to do. After that, the most important thing is to do your bank statement reconciliations. And you want to get as much, anything that has cleared the bank, you want to get it reconciled and cleared so that everything starts in a correct state for 2024. So to do that, you come to your tools and settings page and you select bank statement reconciliation. I'm sure that many of you have already done this in the past, but we'll do a quick little look at it. I click start and then I select my bank account. And this is the only one that I have that still has some things that need to be reconciled. I have my beginning date is populated from my previous ending date, and my beginning balance is populated from my previous ending balance. I have my ending date is showing as today. We'll just pretend that today is actually the end of the year and that I've got my December statement here. And I can use these check boxes if I wanted to check to clear all of my transactions. And then go back through and just uncheck any that haven't really cleared. So if I go back down and I have, let's say that the lawn care and landscaping one didn't deposit yet or didn't clear yet, and the deposit for the last batch hasn't cleared yet. Well, let's be honest, these are all future dates, so they clearly haven't cleared yet. And we will uncheck all of those. And let's say that, yep, those salary checks definitely haven't been deposited yet by their owners. But let's say that back to here, these have all cleared, let's just say. So I've made all of those selections. I'm cheating right now because I don't actually have a bank statement here with an ending balance to show me what it should be. So I'm just going to copy that up there and pretend that that's what it said on my bank statement. And now you'll see that it has shown that my difference is 0. So I can go ahead and save that, print it. I can do either uncleared or cleared, or I can do the default option here. Let's look at that default option. It shows me everything that I've done, and it gives me a little summary at the top. I'm going to pretend that I printed that, but I'm just going to close it. And then now it's time to post that. So I will go ahead and post this reconciliation. It's setting all the marked activity to cleared, and I say yes. And that's posted successfully. So now I can go back, let's close out of the reconciliation. I can go back to my activity and I can see that all of these are cleared except for the few that have not yet, all of these are completed. These are cleared. So the few that I don't have checked off will still show as completed instead of cleared, or paid if it's a payment. But everything else is cleared, so that means that I am pretty confident now that my bank statement and my Shepherd staff is all matched up. If I were to then find that I was having any problem with that, if there was something that I missed or I made a mistake, I can go back to Tools and Settings and reopen that reconciliation. Click Start, select that same one, and it says the last reconciliation was today, and I can click Reopen. And that means I'm unposting that reconciliation. And I'm going to say yes to that. And now I can go back into that reconciliation and make any corrections that I need to. I can select it again. You'll see that it still shows what I checked off. So if I needed to uncheck something or check something that I missed before, I could do that now. We don't really need to, so I'm going to repost it again. So that gives you pretty much the cleanest state that you can have. You're sure that you've got all of your transactions entered, you've got everything that's cleared, listed as cleared, so that your numbers should be good. So then the next thing that you want to do is print out your year-end reports. This is something we'll kind of look at a little bit in depth because some of your reports have changed. The most common reports previously to print out were the statement of income and expense, your balance sheet, your general ledger. Those are still all important things. Your statement of income and expense has just changed a little bit. So when you go to your other reports section, you do have an income statement option here that you can use, and you would do through December of this current year, and you can choose what format you like. You can do the period, the year to date, the period history, the year to date history, and you can choose whatever level of detail you like. Because this is my final year-end report, I'm going to give it the full everything level of detail. And then in the options, I can choose to include inactive accounts, to consolidate all of my books by major and minor groups if I want to. So if you see, I have 2 books here. Those will both be included on the report unless I uncheck one of them. I might decide that I don't want that one to show because it's an old one that I made by mistake and was all bad or something like that. I could leave it off and just show the book that's really active and has all of my data in it. I can decide whether I want the account numbers to show or not, and whether I want them sorted by number or name. I can choose to leave off accounts that have no current balance, and I can choose to include dedicated in and out as part of my income statement. Now, the income statement is not going to be exactly the same as your former income and expense, but it's still got some really good useful information in it. So we'll take a look at that. You've got all of my income information, everything, all of my income accounts and their December totals and the year-end totals. Then I've got all of my expenses here, and that goes through to the next page or so. And then I have a little summary at the bottom that shows the December income minus expense and the year-to-date income minus expense. So that gives me my net income. I'm going to go ahead and click close here and show you the other reports that you might use to be a little closer to your previous statement of income and expense. So we'll go to the treasurer reports here. And there's a lot of formats that you can use in the treasurer's report. One that's most beloved, I think, and is closer to what people are used to using is the current month, year to date, and budget remaining report. And again, you have a lot of options for what you can include and exclude. And it's carried over this fact that I've only selected the one book from the other report. So I don't have to change that if I want to stay with just that one book. And again, I can change my level of detail here. And I can choose to page break on account type or just leave it as is so that it page breaks where it needs to just to fill up the page. So if I do a preview here, you'll be able to see this probably is a little more familiar to you. You've got your current month and your year to date. It's got what your budget was, what your actuals were for the year, for the month. Sorry, we're in the month. And then the percent of change of that and what's remaining in your budget, and then the same for the year to date. So since I'm not really at my year end, this is only going to give me the year to date as of today, but that's okay. We're going to pretend that this is the real year end, and it gives me everything. So I'm going to go ahead and click on through so that you can see we've got all of our income and all of our expenses showing. And then we've got our summary at the bottom that again will give us our current month here with the budget and actuals and remaining, and our year to date here with our budgets and actuals remaining for the consolidated amounts of everything. So I can have that report. There are other formats here that you might choose to use. And I encourage you to kind of peruse these and see what ones work best for your church and your situation. You can also look at, I think a lot of people like to see this all months one where it gives you a breakdown for actuals and budgets for each month of the year. And you can do that here. You'll see January, it's got your actuals and your budget. for each month, and then it gives you a total for the year for each account. Another thing that's really handy in this new version is that you can make your own custom report as well. When you select that option, you've got various rows. This is sort of the default that it's giving you, is what I've done in the past, but you can choose to see either your actuals or your budgets for the current year or for years past. And then you can say either for the period, for the year to date, or for the entire year. And you can do the same thing here. And then you have some options at the bottom here where you can do some calculations, like column 3 less column 2. So that would be like if you did your budget minus your actuals there. And you can do a percentage as well, which is what showed on one of in after the year to date, in the year to date budget remaining, current year to date budget remaining ones. So you have some options there that you can do to customize your reports to make them look however you feel is best. But the most common default one that people will usually use is the current month year to date budget remaining. So you might also want to use the balance sheet. That's another common one that's important to print out for most people. And the format, you can choose to do comparisons, but you're probably going to do the 1 year for your year end. And you can choose what you want to include and exclude there. And that will give you, I'm going to make this a little bigger. Should have done that with the others. That will give you your assets and liabilities, your dedicated accounts, and your equity, if you have an equity account, any equity accounts, and it'll give you a little bit of information for each of those. It's giving you the starting balance, your ending balance, and the change and percent of change for each of those accounts. And then the account and trial balance is another one that you might want to use that kind of goes along with the balance sheet. You might want to use it in place of the balance sheet. That's sort of a preference thing, but you can do that as well. And the current balance version is probably handy for that one. And we'll take a look at how that looks. It's going to give you a similar view. So you've got your assets and liabilities, but it's also including your income and expense. And it's giving you afterwards, after all of it, it gives you a really nice thorough summary for the year that gives you your beginning balance, your activity through the end of the year, and your current balance. And it's showing you kind of how everything equals out. So it kind of gives you information on how your calculations work to show that your equity and that there are no differences. So that's another one that you might like to do. Other very important one is your general ledger. I'm sure you're all fairly familiar with that one, but I will just bring it up real quick here. We're going to do a summary because we just want to see it at a glance for the whole year here. You can, of course, also do a detailed one, but that probably will be quite a few pages if you do it for the entire year. You'll see here, you can see the different account types, and you could do this for individual reports for individual account types and different things if you choose. But this is going to give you summaries for every account for the whole year. And if you should find on any of these reports that there are any discrepancies, that's when you might want to look at your detail activity for the general ledger. If you find anything that's off, anything that doesn't seem quite right, any discrepancies at all, also if you find anything like that with your reconciliation, you would want to use this report to get details. Let's say I'm going to pretend that I've only seen a discrepancy in, just so that it's a little quicker to get that report. We're going to look at just that last couple of months. You would probably want to look at the whole year if you're having any issues, but this will give you full details of all of your transactions so that you can double check and see if there's anything that's incorrect. If you find anything incorrect anywhere on any of these reports, you're going to want to use that to try and find where the problem lies, go back to your activities and make some corrections. You might need to either edit one that's not quite finished yet, or if you've got one that's cleared, you might need to create a journal entry or whatever you need to do to make those corrections, and then come and rerun all of your reports. One other report that you might choose to use if you're a user of dedicated accounts is the dedicated accounts report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that, and it's fairly straightforward. And as you can see, I didn't use my dedicated accounts much this year, but it'll give you information on those from your beginning balance to your ending balance and all of the activity in between for either the period that you've selected, so the month of December, and also for the full year. So again, run those reports, take a quick look, actually take a very long and thorough look, make sure that everything is correct. If anything isn't, then you're going to go back and into your activity and make whatever corrections you need, and then regenerate those reports to make sure that everything is 100% ready and kosher for you for the year. Let's see. Oh, a very handy thing that I can show you regarding these reports. As I mentioned, there are several reports that have changed or have changed places and everything, and we talked about the income and expense report being split out. But just while I'm here, I'm going to show you. We're going to go to Help here, and we're going to go to the User's Guide. That's going to take us to the Help Center, the Shepherd Staff Help Center. And I want to show you this article here that's very handy. Let's see, where is it now? This is a handy dandy little article that'll help you find anything that's changed places in Shepherd Staff version 9.0 from the previous versions. So this is very helpful for reports, and that's the main thing. So our dear friend Taylor, who is an excellent tech. If you've talked to her before, you'll know that. She has created individual articles for all of the things that have really changed places, and this is just one that's kind of consolidating to get you a link to each one. But where is it now will help you to find the reports that you need, that you might want to run in addition to any of the ones that we've discussed today. So So if you have found any discrepancies or any issues, you're going to go back and probably make a journal entry and make sure that everything is kosher there. And you'll have, let's see, sorry, lost my place. Okay, I believe we've covered the major reports that are most commonly used. And oh, that was the other thing that I wanted to show you. For those of you who are on, I was reminded by going to the help. For those of you who are not yet on 9.0, and this is slightly less helpful than you would like, if you go to training and videos, you'll be able to find the previous versions year-end information here. I believe it's this one, finance running reports in the year-end. Yes. So all you have to do, I'll show you that one more time, is help, training, and videos. And if you're looking for the ones from 9.0, from prior to 9.0, you can do this finance running reports in the year end, and that will give you basically a recording of the webinar that happened that showed how that worked in the previous versions. So now, now that I've made sure you have that information, let's go ahead and actually talk about the year-end utility in the finance module. So each module has year-end tasks. I think I said this already, but each module has year-end tasks, but this is the only module that you actually have to run something to advance the year. And that's just to close out the current fiscal year and open up the new fiscal year. And that is because when you start a new fiscal year, your income and expense accounts reset they start at 0 for that year. So you are showing your so that your reports will be accurate for the new year. So in order for that to happen, you have to close out your previous year. So this is where you'll do that. It's here under Tools and Settings in your Finance module, and you'll see it's right here on top, your finance year. And you'll see a little option here, Close the Finance Year. So simply enough, that's what you'll do. When you're ready, when you're sure that everything is completed, all of your transactions are entered, everything's been reconciled that can be reconciled, and you've run all of your reports, you'll come here to Tools and Settings, you'll choose Close Finance Year, and you'll click Start. And make sure, once again, that you've had your backup and you've done your optimizations before all of this. You might even choose if you've made corrections, you might choose to make another backup after you've made those corrections and before you run this utility, and that's an abundance of caution is never a bad thing. So here you'll see it's saying we're going to close the current finance year. That will change the beginning balance of several accounts, and we recommend that you make your backup if you want to continue. So we've made our backup. We haven't made any changes since our backup. So we're going to say yes. And now it says the finance year was closed and advanced to a new year. The finance module will now close to finish applying those changes. So when I click OK, it's going to toss me out of the finance module. And when I go back in, if I go back to Tools and Settings and take a look, you'll see that now it says Close Finance Year 2024, or it also says Reopen Finance Year 2023. So even now, if I find that I've made a mistake or I've missed something or a transaction, an offering batch didn't get posted, so I'm missing a deposit or anything like that, I can still go back here and choose to reopen Finance Year 2023. I can click Start. Reopening the previous finance year will change the beginning balance, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to go ahead and say yes. And now I can go back. It says it's going to close the finance module again. And I can open it again. I'll be back in year 2023, and I can make any corrections or add any transactions that I need to get everything correct. Then I'll rerun all of my reports again, and then I'll go right back here and do it again. I'm going to reclose it. So I'm starting. Yes, I'm going to continue. It's going to kick me out of finance one more time. So note that now that we're in a new year, we're going to have new beginning balances. So we're going to click on our accounts. We're going to take a look at all of our accounts. The beginning balance for 2024 is what's going to show here now instead of the previous ones. And you'll notice that all of our income and expense ones are 0. And that's because we're in a new finance year and there haven't been any income or expenses logged for 2024 yet. So that's how everything should look, and that's good. If you happen to notice, hey, something's not right here, your beginning balance isn't correct, then we'll go right back again to Tools and Settings. You'll revert back to 2023 by reopening it here and make whatever corrections or changes that you feel like you need to make to get it straight and rerun it again. So you can do that as many times as you need to make sure that you get everything completely correct. The next thing, last little bit here, is the cleanup utility. This is entirely optional, and I'll be real honest, we don't necessarily recommend it, but there are some people who just feel like they need to do it, so we'll show you how. We don't like the idea of deleting financial data. We'll keep it going back for as many years as we have Shepherd staff if we can. But if you feel like you really need to get rid of it, you can do some cleanup here in Tools and Settings. If you look under Other Tools, we have Clean Up Your Finance Data. If I select that and I click Start, it's going to tell me, hey, we're permanently deleting data when you do this, so make a backup again. So anytime you see it saying that, even if you've made a backup 10 minutes ago, anytime that you get a message that says, are you sure? Why don't you make a backup? If anything has happened at all in your system since you did your last backup, go ahead and say, no, we don't want to continue, and do another backup. I showed you how to do it from the login screen before, but you can also still do your backup from here. So now that we've actually closed out our stuff. We're going to do another backup here, and we'll do again to the last location used. Okay. And now I can come back and I can feel safe that it's going to be easy to revert back to right before I did this if I suddenly have buyer's remorse after I clean up some data. So I'm going to click start here, and it's going to tell me again, you will permanently delete financial information. We recommend blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this time we want to say we can continue. Now, there are various different things that you can clean up in here. And I can see the ones that I don't mind people doing are these two in the middle that are inactive and have never had any activity in any fiscal year. These make me feel totally secure and happy, so I don't mind doing these at all. These other two, they make me a little more nervous. So deleting accounts with no activity in any fiscal year means if I created an account at some point and I never used it, then I can delete it here. And the same thing with vendors. If we created a vendor that we thought we were going to work with and we never ended up using them, we can get rid of them just with this. The other options, purchase orders, if you used purchase orders in the past and you're not using them anymore, or you don't need them, you can use this drop down to go back, and you'll notice that in the drop downs, the nearest you can go is 2021. It is not only not recommended, but it is not allowed to delete anything closer than 2 years old, or 3 years old, I guess. But you can go back. It's recommended if you are going to delete stuff to keep at least 7 years of things, so it defaults to that option. So we can say we're going to delete purchase orders that are prior to 2018. This one up here, deleting payments, receipts, journal entries, and budgets prior to 2018. I'm not even going to do it. That's how much I don't recommend it. I'm going to keep mine. You can make your own choice, but I want to have that history. Should I ever need to go back and find out some information from the past, I want to be able to keep that. So now I'm selecting the ones that I'm okay with doing, and I'm clicking continue. And it's telling me again, are you sure? And it's telling you exactly what's going to happen. And if you're okay with that, then you click yes, and it'll tell you cleanup is complete. So then you can go back and see that whatever you have cleaned up will no longer be there from those dates. So that is pretty much all I've got for that. So let's go back to our PowerPoint here. And I am going to take you to our review. So once again, for the general, all of Shepherd's staff, this is the workflow. You're going to make a new backup before every module, before you do the tasks for the end of the year for every module. That way, if anything goes wrong, or if you have any confusion, or you want to go see if something was wrong and you're not even sure, you still have that fallback point you could restore to, and then you can redo whatever you have to make it right. Next thing is, once you complete that year-end task, verify the data, and if everything is good, take one more backup. It's always good to have a backup. When all of your year-end tasks are complete for each module, and then once you've finished your last module, your finance module, take another backup then too. So for the finance specific parts, here's the workflow for that. You're going to update and enter all of your data. That means all of your transactions, your budgets, bank statement reconciliation, and running and verifying the accuracy of all of your needed reports. We mentioned the specific ones that we most recommend, but there are a lot of churches who will do other reports as well. And just once you have, make sure that everything on them is accurate before you continue. And so, as I said, these are the ones that we recommend. And now, do you have any questions? Let's go to our questions view here and see if we have any outstanding that haven't been answered at this point. I gotta make it bigger. Oop. Okay, it looks like Rod has been on the ball answering questions. Yeah, it looks like Rod has pretty much covered everything that I see out here. Does anybody have any new questions or anything that they didn't get a chance to type in beforehand? What happens to the net income when you advance? Oh, that's a good point. So if you are a user of equity accounts where you choose to record that net income in an equity account, that's something that you can do as a journal entry before you complete your final advancement to the new year, so that you have a record of that net income. That is pretty much a personal choice. Not all of the churches do that. Shepherd staff does keep track on its own of what it calls the book equity. And so you can see that in some of the reports without even having to do the journal entry to transfer that net income. But it'll be in your year-end reports. And then when you start over with the new year, you'll start over with zero on your income and expense. And yep, it looks like Rod has already answered Beverly's question about the budgets. Anything else anybody would like to ask about? Anything that went too fast and could use another quick look or anything like that? Looks like that's a no. All right, well, in that case, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody who attended. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you using our software. I know you have lots of choices, and we're just grateful to be able to work with you all. I've worked in a lot of other companies. You are the best bunch of customers I've ever worked with. So very kind and patient with us, and I'm just so grateful to be able to work with the churches and help support you guys in your work. So I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day, and that your Advent wraps up beautifully, and you have a wonderful Christmas. If you come up with any questions after the webinar, please feel free to reach out to support. We'll be happy to help. Thank you. Bye-bye.